This is exactly what we've been waiting for, as multiple reports have covered the fact that the Colorado Avalanche enter this season with some of the best top talent in the National Hockey League. But the question remains if the Avs have the lower line talent to back up amazing franchise players like Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. And multiple reports and speculations around specific players and specific aspects of the Colorado Avalanche confirm that they might have just what they're looking for to be a Stanley Cup contender. And we're going to break it all down here today on Avalanche Digest. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for being here. Happy to be reporting on all things Colorado Avalanche, as we are officially less than 1 month away from the season opener. 25 days until the Avs are back on the ice in burgundy and blue, opening up their season against the Los Angeles Kings in Los Angeles, California, Crypto.com Arena. And not long after that, they will be opening up their home season in Ball Arena, downtown Denver, Colorado. Very exciting stuff. We are at the very last aspect, very tail end of the offseason, and I cannot wait for the Avs to be officially back. Real quick, before we dive into today's video, I want to remind you guys to please subscribe to Avs Digest here on YouTube. We're the fastest growing news source for Colorado Avalanche. News, rumors, updates, reports, anything surrounding the Colorado Avalanche, from trades to speculations to random updates to anything going on. We're covering it right here on Avalanche Digest. So please hit that subscribe button. Join the Avs Digest community. We're trying to continue to grow past that 1,000 subscriber mark, and we need each and every one of you guys to help us do so. Thank you very much for the support as usual. Without further ado, let's dive into a little bit of a season preview around some of the talent that the Avs are going to have coming into the season. But more of the question raised here is, do they have bottom line players, and do they have a fully rounded out game around offense, defense, power play, goaltending to back up that talent and continue to be a contender in the Central Division, a contender in the West, and just a contender in the Stanley Cup Championship in general? So the Avs are in the 2025-26 season looking to shake off a major sting of disappointment. And if you're an Avs fan, you know exactly what this disappointment is. 3 years removed from their legendary 2022 Stanley Cup triumph, what people say is one of the best Cup teams in the last 10 to 15 years, right up there with the last two Florida Panthers teams who have gone back to back. The Avs have struggled to regain that form despite having one of the NHL's most feared cores in the league. Their contending window is still wide open. They still have a lot of really strong talent, but their flaws were exposed last season in that first round matchup against the Dallas Stars, a heartbreaker where they lost in 7 games. And they didn't lose because Dallas outplayed them. They lost because they made mistakes that were costly and ended up costing them that advancement to the next round, which would have been against the Winnipeg Jets. And a lot of people say that if the Avs were able to have made it to that next round, they would have probably been able to make a case to get all the way to the Stanley Cup. I think they could have handled Winnipeg very strongly. I think they could have beat Edmonton. They know how to play against Edmonton, and they've done really well against them in the playoffs in the past. Against Florida in the Cup, not really sure about that one. But it doesn't matter because they blew that Game 7 and they lost to the Dallas Stars in the playoffs for the second straight year in a row. And that disappointment heading into the season is kind of what this whole conversation revolves around. Avs proved once again that talent alone can carry them through the regular season, a long season that is, the 82-game regular season schedule. Despite being one of the most injured teams in the league, a reset at the goaltending position, adding Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, and adding some other depth players at the deadline like Brock Nelson, some other really big signings, Colorado still had a really strong regular season. But as everybody knows, with a guy like Nathan MacKinnon, who cannot just do well in the regular season, in fact, he doesn't even care about the regular season. All he cares about is winning in the postseason. By the time the playoffs rolled around, the same old issues reappeared, which was inconsistent goaltending, holes in the lineup, and very poor power play style hockey, which essentially cost them the series against the Dallas Stars. Colorado could overwhelm the most opponents in the regular season, but in the playoffs, their flaws were magnified with a first-round exit against the Dallas Stars, a team that they clearly struggle against over and over, year in and year out. And that is just kind of the reason that all of these flaws are coming about and all of these flaws are starting to raise and become a primary issue for the Colorado Avalanche. So let's talk about a few players on this roster that is going to be very important to keep an eye on as we head into the season. Players that are going to matter more than just the shining stars. Because, of course, we have players like Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. MacKinnon, obviously, making a case every year to win multiple awards in the league. He's coming off of a recent MVP performance. He's always a top point scorer in the league. People say that he's the best center in the league, right up there with Connor McDavid. He is like almost single-handedly keeping our cup window open, and he's helping us propel to be the best team that we can. And then, of course, Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the league, won the Norris Trophy this last season. He's going to continue to thrive defensively. But a few players that are coming into the roster this season that I think that we need to keep an eye on, that are going to hopefully be a reason that the Avs can succeed besides the star players on the Avs roster. And this first one, the stats we're looking at right here, this is veteran defenseman Brent Burns. He signed a 1-year deal with the Avs. He comes in for 1 season with Colorado. He's played a ton of games in the league. He is a veteran, very old defenseman. He's been around for a while, but he still packs a punch. He still brings a really interesting aspect of hockey to the Avs roster. And the hope is that on that third D pairing, he can help the Avs play a very defensive, heavy-hitting style hockey. Looking at a few of his stats from the last few years, if you look at these last 3 seasons with the Hurricanes, he played 3 straight 82-game seasons. That is insane. With his age and his play style, the fact that he's able to play 3 straight perfect seasons, that is absurd. And the hope is that he can do the exact same thing for the Avs this year. He's a guy who can stay healthy, and if he can stay healthy this year for Colorado, he's going to pack a really strong punch defensively for the Avalanche. He had 18, 10, and 6 goals, 43, 33, and 23 assists, respectively. So you can kind of see those 3 numbers on a little bit of a decline, but the hope is that he can bounce back, and with support from some really strong offensive players, as well as some strong defensive players as well, he can get some of those stats. More specifically, I'm keeping my eyes on the assist column, but if you can get those assists, maybe even those goals up back to that 20-30 realm, and then for the goals, like that 10-20 realm, that would be most ideal for what the Colorado Avalanche are trying to do and what they are seeking depth-wise in terms of adding a player like Brent Burns. Another guy we're going to keep an eye on, he's not a new player. He was acquired last year, very close to the trade deadline, in what some NHL critics are saying one of the biggest trades in the last 20 years of the NHL. It's Jack Drury. We talked about him on the channel recently, but he is looking to have a major breakout season. On the last year of his contract, he struggled last year offensively. He had 8 goals and 10 assists for 18 points across both teams. With the Avs, he only had 5, 4, and 9 for goals, assist, points, respectively. So on the last year of his contract, here's a guy who's looking to have a major breakout season. And the hope is that he's going to contribute to the overall depth and the overall skill level that is being led and kind of essentially spearheaded by Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. Hopefully he can do it. I've got my eyes on Jack Drury. I know a lot of people in the world of the NHL media do as well, but this is a guy who I think is going to be really helpful in the overall depth outside of the star-studded players that the Avs have on their roster. So just kind of rounding this conversation out, looking at everything going on for our roster, for our offensive lines. Top 6 dialed in. Nathan MacKinnon, best center in the league. He's going to help us immensely in the regular season. But as far as the playoffs go, having trouble speaking all of a sudden. There's going to need to be a lot of backup and a lot of depth that is going to really bring this team together and really help this team propel. So we talked about Jack Drury, center on the third line. He is going to be paired up with the newly signed Victor Olofsson. This is another guy that I think is going to add a lot of depth scoring for the Avs throughout the regular season and hopefully in the playoffs. Olofsson, a guy who has playoff experience playing with the Vegas Golden Knights. Hopefully he can bring that experience to the Colorado Avalanche. And then, of course, Brent Burns, a guy that we're hoping can be a huge aspect of this team, of this game as well. And also, just thinking about everything going on within this conversation, the Avs need to make a case that they can be highly ranked in the Central Division. They finished third last year. I'm hoping that they can be either at third or even higher than that. There's some speculation that the Stars are going to drop off a little bit because of, the shakeup of losing back-to-back years in the Western Conference final, their head coach getting fired, and, just some other offseason moves like losing Mason Marchment as well. I'm hoping that the Avs can really find their groove in the regular season and get a really strong seeding in the Central Division and find themselves in a place where they can get out of that first and second round and show that this depth, strong scoring team that is led by some of the best players in the league in their respective positions, that they can really make a case as to why they can try to be a legit contender and make it back to another Stanley Cup championship. Really exciting stuff here, guys. Cannot wait to see the Avs back in action. The biggest question that we're kind of talking about just to round things out here today is, can the Avs, really strong players, be supported by the third line and the fourth line and the lower pairing D players? And I think the answer is yes. With the help of Chris MacFarland making some moves and continuing to use that remainder of cap space as we start to enter into the NHL season, I think that the Avs are set to try to be the most successful team that they possibly can in this NHL season. Can't wait for the Avs to be back in action. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As usual, appreciate the support more than you know. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we'll talk to y'all soon.